We have a lot to talk about. We missed this past week, and so yeah, it's only been like a little over a week, and we all know what happened a little over a week ago. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at the age of 87 due to complications with pancreatic cancer. And to be honest, it is kind of a miracle she lived that long. Like she's been struggling with cancer since the 90s, and pancreatic cancer is typically a death sentence. That's what killed John Lewis actually, and then that's why like when Alex Trebek got it, everyone was like, oh shit, like he's gonna die. And like he's one of the very few lucky ones who survived it seemingly. But yeah, um, RBG died, and it was literally that same day Mitch McConnell released his statement saying that on uh, he fully intended on filling up the vacant seat before the election, because for those of you who recall, back in 2016, after Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia died, and this, keep in mind, this was 7 months before the election, roughly. I think it was April 2016 that he died. Well, on top of that, Democrats actually gave time to mourn for Antonin Scalia. And then when they tried to appoint Merrick Garland, the Republicans said, let's wait till after the next election. Let's wait and see what the American people have to say about it. And they never even gave Merrick Garland a hearing, right? Anthony Kennedy, I think that was it Anthony Kennedy? Justice Kennedy, whatever his first name was. He's not dead, but he retired like summer of 2018, right before the midterms, and Democrats were saying, okay, let's wait till the election, and then they didn't, and then they managed to cram through Brett Kavanaugh, and they got him confirmed like a month before the midterms. And honestly, that might have been a huge catalyst for why the Democrats did as well as they did in 2018, right? And then now we're election year 2020, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died literally like a month and a half from the election, and then Mitch McConnell's justification was, because of the midterms in which we actually gained more seats, that is a mandate for conservative justices, even though it's been nearly 2 years since those elections, and we're coming up on another one. And so like, not only is the hypocrisy absolutely just completely outstanding, it's like I said, it's very insensitive, I think, to just say, okay, she's dead, let's work on replacing her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much is insensitive. They even wait a week. Mitch McConnell waited like a day. They gave
he did it later that day when she died. Didn't even wait a day.
For a loss in our great American life. But we gotta move on, and we're gonna try to find a nomination. And Trump came out in 24 hours of that initial public eulogy, in a sense, saying, "Oh, I'm gonna pick somebody by Friday."
Yeah. As far as this is obviously going to cause a huge, giant political battle, and it could have massive electoral implications. But my first thought was initially that, if they are going to try to cram a nominee through before the election, I don't think they're going to have time to do it, because how long? It was in the summer, that it was in July that they nominated Brett Kavanaugh, and he was confirmed in October, and that was with the delays caught because of the Christine Blasey Ford allegations, that it elongated the process. But even then, it was still a few months. and we're just a little over a month until the next election. Although I wouldn't put it past McConnell to try to get another justice through during the lame duck session, even if like Biden wins. Like if Trump wins, he's definitely going to try to get him through during the lame duck session, and I would totally expect that. But I'm interested to see like if they can't manage to confirm Amy Coney Barrett, who is Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court. If they can't manage to confirm her before Election Day, and Biden wins, I'm interested to see what they do after that. But one thing that really pissed me off right away is how the Democrats have already kind of botched their response to this. They're so hung up on just the hypocrisy angle. It's like, the Republicans don't care. Like, it's clear that they don't care about being called hypocrites. They know they're hypocrites, but they're willing to sacrifice their integrity for their own agenda. And I think it's about time that the Democrats start playing scorched earth politics with this.
Definitely, because the thing is, we weren't focused. We were hyper-focused, including Nancy Pelosi and also Chuck Schumer on Biden winning. They didn't pay attention, and some of the Democrats actually passed the over 200 federal judges Trump stacked in the court.
Yeah.
Like if they had a strategy plan to like help block those votes, we'd be in a much better position, even if like Trump nominated Amy Coney and she was confirmed. Because the thing is, most cases don't go to Supreme Court. A lot of decisions are referred back to the lower courts, like the federal courts, appellate courts. And like, I'm not saying the Supreme Court doesn't matter, but a lot of decisions made like on an everyday, daily basis are based off federal court decisions.
Yeah, just to give y'all a sense of what kind of justice she would be. She thinks that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And she has not, like, she wrote a list of some Supreme Court decisions that she considers like super precedents, in which like they're totally off the table. They can't be overturned. And her criteria for that is like, Supreme Court decisions that, in today's day and age have overwhelming support by jurists, politicians, and the general public, to the point where where the issue itself is not on any of the court's agendas. So like, Brown v. Board is on that list, but she did leave out, another thing she left in was Mapp v. Ohio was also on that list, in which that was a Fourth Amendment landmark case, but like she left out Roe v. Wade, like specifically, and because in her eyes, like Roe v. Wade doesn't fit that criteria I just described.
I mean, yeah, it still is controversial, but
yeah,
repealing primary is just that's very extreme.
Yeah, and then like she is a favorite of she is a favorite of religious conservatives, and
And I think she wants to like integrate church and state, and that's the opposite of the Constitution.
Yeah. And just like Antonin Scalia, who she actually clerked for a long time, I think, she describes herself as an originalist.
Yeah, a lot of like, especially like the deep, like extremely left to the right conservatives describe themselves as quote originalists. But the thing is, they're so hypocritical with the Second Amendment. Because if we look at that from an originalist perspective, it only applied to militias.
Yeah, and I guess like the one thing that would really separate her, like the thing that would really separate her from someone like Antonin Scalia is that Antonin Scalia understood when his own personal ideology didn't necessarily mesh well with the Constitution. Alex and I were hanging out yesterday, and we were talking about this. There was a landmark case on the First Amendment while Antonin Scalia was on the bench about flag burning, and he said that if I was king of the U.S., I would say flag burning would be illegal, but I'm not the king of the U.S. And it's not my job to write the laws. I'm meant to interpret the laws, and our First Amendment is specifically meant for things like this. And I don't see that in ACB.
No, I don't. No, a lot of our ideology, whether it's religious or personal, intersects with law. The thing is, one thing I can respect about people like Brett Kavanaugh is that they at least interpret, at least use the law to interpret their perception, whereas Amy Comet has literally no constitutional founding to support any of her interpretations.
Yeah, and then, so let's talk about. I guess we should probably talk about electoral implications of this, how this would affect the presidential race as well as down ballot races as well, because the Senate is the House of Congress that confirms Supreme Court justices as well as judges of lower courts as well, and also this is probably something that can really energize both average hashtag resistance left liberals, and then as well as for example people more or less like you and me who are further to the left, who who aren't so much of the hashtag resistance mentality, but we really deeply care about the policy and what really happens in a post-Trump era. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, I get that.
it's because I also talked about this with Alex. One of the things that really could get lefties on board with eventually voting for Joe Biden in this instance is because we understand what a far right court can do, because we already kind of have a center right more or less court that could easily just if by some chance we got Medicare for all passed, the Supreme Court could find some weird ass precedent for how Medicare for all is unconstitutional. I mean, like we said, ACB thinks that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional, and that's that is a right-wing healthcare reform in itself. And
Even
so
the Foundation, they advocated for it.
Yeah, or it's basically people on the left have described it as Romney care, actually. And and the idea of an individual mandate system was created by the Heritage Foundation, and then there's also let's take the scenario in which right before Election Day they do manage to confirm ACB. Very much like it did with Brett Kavanaugh, this could really energize the left, and people in general to show up to vote these senators out, and that could if the Senate votes to confirm ACB, this very well could cost them the majority if it wasn't already lost before. And I think there's certain Republicans in the Senate that realize that, because Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. I know Susan Collins is up for re-election. I don't know about Lisa Murkowski, but they're being more reserved about it. They're saying, "Oh, we should wait till after the election."
Yeah, I think she's running against Susan Rice. Last time I checked.
Susan Rice. No. Yes, no. Susan Rice isn't running in that race. I forgot her name.
I forgot who it was, but
Susan Rice. Sarah Gideon is the Democratic nominee, and they also have a pretty strong Green Party candidate in that state as well, who actually might have a chance of winning because they do have ranked choice voting. And one of the big stigmas around voting Green Party, as we've discussed, as is well known, like people feel like they can't vote for Green Party even though like they align with them more because they feel like they're just taking away votes from the Democrat and that will lead to Republicans winning. With ranked choice voting, you can have, like you can vote, you can put the Green Party candidate at the top and then, you can put in the Democrat as your second choice. So you can vote for both of them. So,
Yeah, it's a pretty good system. I do think that should be implemented like in a lot of states because it does help like at least get third parties a fair platform to like be able to like advocate for their ideology.
Yeah, and if not like allow like third parties to like win or actually gain seats, it can actually allow them to gain a little bit more influence into like what the two major parties talk about, because that is like when we were discussing third parties and when I was a senior in gov class, we talked about the numerous roles that like the Green Party and Libertarian Party play, and in addition to like just talking about like how they're kind of like they fill a spoilage role. My camera went out again. Shit. In addition to playing kind of a spoilage role, they also like have the potential to like influence the platforms of the major party candidates. Like we watched the example of Andrew Cuomo running against this guy from a party called the Rent is Too Damn High party. And then, Andrew Cuomo essentially like later adopted that, into his platform, talk about like lowering rent costs. And so like with this system in which, third parties can gain more power, they can gain more influence into what goes on with the major parties as well.
Yeah, speaking of that, there's a race right now and with Lindsey Graham and
I think Jamie Harrison.
Yeah, Jamie Harrison. And they're right now tied. And earlier in an interview with Fox News, Lindsey Graham was actually begging for campaign money.
Yeah, I've heard that. Like he broke his fuck. No.
Yeah, he was begging for campaign money.
Yeah.
It was funny. And he was like, please, please, please donate. You helped me last week. Help me this week. It really shows that how far, like, even in that state, which is like heavy GOP, and like especially in like, suburbs and like rural area, showing how a lot of those voters are waking up to like Lindsey Graham's horrible integrity, which you referred to earlier in the Republican Party.
Yeah, like we could act like, I mean, even if like before RBG died, people were saying that Democrats really have an opportunity to take the Senate. If because of this, it may have even strengthened their chances. And people like Lindsey Graham might be seen on the way out. Mitch McConnell, I think, is a bit of a stretch because Amy McGrath is just such a terrible candidate.
Yeah, sadly, Charles Booker would have been better. Honestly.
Charles Booker, I think, actually could have won if he actually won the primary. And I think if it wasn't for how they handled that primary, I think he could have won that too, because they only gave one polling station for all of Louisville. And that county, like they're like, one polling booth for that entire county actually. And that holds like half of the state's black voters. And Charles Booker was very popular in that county. And if they had actually like had more polling places, which like I don't get why they wouldn't, because I would say that, hold on, I don't know why my camera keeps going out. I would say that if you wanted to Because like the justification for closing a lot of polling places has been, oh, because of COVID. Like, wouldn't you want to have more polling places so you can actually spread the people out a little bit more and not just cram them into one?
You know, the thing is, a lot of this happened like way before COVID got even this severe.
Yeah.
I think it was like like, it was somewhere like when it was going down, I guess. Yeah, I think it came. Oh,
Well,
really? But like the thing is, if they were gonna argue because of COVID, they literally closed no other polling places throughout Kentucky.
they closed a whole bunch. Like, they had like thousands, and then they just had like a couple hundred. But since we are
No, I'm
talking about
talking about in like rural areas,
in rural areas, yeah,
like suburbs.
yeah.